I'm Robin Gagnon.
And I'm Aaron Gagnon, and we sell restaurants. We started the nation's largest restaurant brokerage firm, We Sell Restaurants, over a decade ago. You can find us online at WeSellRestaurants.com.
We're also on your radio once a week with the leading authorities in this industry talking about subjects trending in the restaurant business. Tweet your own questions on the topic while we are on the air to our Twitter handle, Sell Restaurants, or post them on our Facebook page, facebook.com/We Sell Restaurants. If we don't get to your question, we'll follow up on social media.
Our goal is to satisfy your appetite for acquisition, feed the need for restaurant reality, and serve up a recipe for business success. If you have any ideas for our show or comments, you can email me. My email address is simple. It's Eric, E-R-I-C, at WeSellRestaurants.com.
Today's radio show focuses on the current restaurant marketplace and why restaurant brokers say that sales are booming. Are there seasonalities within the marketplace? We'll explore a few different markets, examine the most popular concepts, and find out which factors are causing the continual growth of the restaurant brokerage industry.
We are joined today by Ken Eisenband. Ken is a restaurant broker in South Florida with an emphasis on Fort Lauderdale, Boca Raton, and Coral Spring. Ken graduated with honors from the School of Hospitality at Michigan State University in 1983. Since that time, he has worked in the restaurant industry as an owner, operator, multi-unit supervisor, financial analyst. As a multi-unit supervisor, Ken was given the task of developing a new and unproven market for Rupee Tuesdays, Incorporated. Over a 5-year span, Ken developed New York State into a region with more than 25 restaurants. Ken joined the finance team as an analyst, working closely with the real estate department and vice president of operations on site selection and feasibility studies. Ken left the corporate world in 2000 and bought his first restaurant soon after. A second restaurant was purchased in 2006. One of these restaurants was voted Best of Palm Beach County in 2009 by the readers of the Sun Sentinel. Ken is a licensed real estate salesperson in Florida and has received instruction and testing leading to his designation as a certified restaurant broker. Ken, thank you for joining us today.
My pleasure.
Okay, and also with us today is John Jordan. John has more than 25 years of direct experience in the restaurant industry. He served as Director of Operations for Ruby Tuesday, where he helped open over 50 restaurants nationwide. He established new markets for the company in Minnesota, Wisconsin, Nebraska, and Colorado. John also worked closely with the VP of Real Estate and CEO in the restaurant site selection. John was named Director of the Year in 1993 and 1996. He received the prestigious President's Award for top same-store sales increases in the U.S. in 1993. John has hands-on experience as both a buyer and seller in the restaurant industry. He owned and operated a Denver area restaurant for over 15 years, increasing sales more than 300%. John is a member of the Colorado Association of Business Intermediaries, or CABI, and has also received instruction and testing leading to his designation as a certified restaurant broker, one of the very few in the nation. John is also a member of the Colorado Restaurant Association. John, thanks for joining us.
My pleasure.
Okay, so let's kick this off because there's one commonality we didn't speak to in those great bios, and that is that both of you are restaurant brokers for We Sell Restaurants. So tell us, how did you get your start and what drove you to become a restaurant broker? Let's key in first on Ken.
Okay, well, thank you. Robin, I was in the process of selling my my restaurant in Boca Raton, and the broker that I had it listed with really didn't have any restaurant knowledge. We had a couple of deals fall through based on the fact that they didn't understand the industry. John actually introduced me to Eric, and I had Eric list my restaurant. We sold it in 39 days from listing to closing date, and I decided at that point to become a restaurant broker with We Sell Restaurants.
Great story. Thank you very much for the plug, Ken. By the way, that was not paid. I never paid Ken to say these kind of words about us. Thank you. John, tell us about how did you become a restaurant broker?
Well, when I left the corporate world and purchased a restaurant and bar out in Colorado, and when we sold that in 2009, the economy wasn't doing very good. I was looking for another business to purchase. Decided to go to real estate school and get my real estate license, and I knew I wanted to help sell restaurants and bars because that's what I know and that's my experience, and I thought I could help both buyers and sellers make smart decisions. And I tried to do it on my own, and then through a mutual friend of mine and Eric's. He introduced me to Eric and Robin, and I was trying to do it on my own, realized that it was too difficult and needed some help, and Eric and Robin flew up and met with me, and I bought the franchise rights to Colorado, and it's been an awesome experience and very successful.
Oh, we just love these accolades flowing from you guys. So let's talk a little bit. You're in the marketplace now, both of you doing extremely well. So, Ken, you're in South Florida. Tell us a little bit about why restaurant sales are booming right now in that marketplace.
Well, in the South Florida area, we have a lot of people that are coming back into this area now, either from the Northeast, also from South America, Europe, and the Midwest. And a lot of money from South America is flowing in, and people are buying a lot of restaurants to get an E2 investor visa. So we're seeing a big uptick in restaurant sales right now for people to buy the restaurants and obtain a visa so they can stay in the country.
That's great.
And John, what are you seeing in the Denver and the Colorado market? Tell us a bit about the same ways that Ken's talked about here.
Okay, well, Colorado, what we're seeing, and we don't see a lot of overseas people, but we are seeing a lot of people from some of the other states, Colorado, Illinois, throughout the Midwest and throughout the West, where the Colorado economy is just a lot more business friendly than some of the states out west of us, especially California. I see a lot of people. I get a lot of calls from California, Illinois, especially some from Texas. But I think just because Colorado is much more business friendly, the expenses and the cost of living is not as expensive as it is in some of those other states, along with the taxes being lower and just much more business friendly, and a nice climate and a lot going on. There's a Metro Denver, from Wyoming down all the way down south to Colorado Springs. There's a oil shale going on that the oil companies are buying a bunch of land up, and so that's creating a business with the fracking and people coming in, and it's just really the economy's booming. I mean, it's doing good with sporting events and everything else we have going on out here. The ski season is in full bloom right now.
So it's interesting.
Looking good. So.
Yeah, so it's interesting then, because it really is very different by market. So, Eric, why don't you weigh in the Georgia marketplace? We're all over the country, but we've gotten two very divergent points of views. What are you seeing in Atlanta?
Yeah, and we're seeing a very different thing here in Atlanta, Robin. We're seeing more of people here that are here already, want to expand and want to grow. We still see a little bit of people coming from either from Florida or from the Northeast, a little bit from the middle of the country as well. But we see a lot of operators that already are in this market that want to gobble up more of it, because our market has been faring very well over the last few years, and they want to expand. So we see a lot of guys that are, hey, I'm here, I want more.
So then would you say, Ken, that your market is very, very active for both buyers and sellers, or does it tilt one way or the other?
I think it's very active in both ways. I've been seeing a lot of these people who have come in to the marketplace from South America especially, and now they're buying up additional spaces, so they're actually getting multiple units going. And the people that are selling are the ones who are, we overpopulated in the bagel restaurants, the pizza restaurants, and they're converting them to other concepts that are becoming more popular down here. So we see the buyers and sellers are both active.
And I want to get back to that. You talk about a good point about saturation. I want to circle back around to that in a little bit. But John, what about you in the western part of the country?
What we're seeing is there's a lot of activity, a lot of independent restaurants. What I found is a lot of people have owned them for anywhere from 10 to 25 years. They're kind of getting up there. They're baby boomers. They're getting to that age where they're looking to retire and move on and sell their business, where they've been successful for a lot of years. So there's a lot of good opportunities out there for restaurants that have been in business for 10, 15, 20 years. They obviously are making money. And so I'm seeing a lot of people that are just kind of getting ready to retire and move on, and maybe move down to Florida and buy a restaurant from Kenny or something. I don't know.
And that's a really great point, because that's one reason that we are seeing some restaurant sales booming all over the country is that these baby boomers, they were born between 1946 and 64. And we talk about this in our book, Appetite for Acquisition. They started retiring in 2007, and some of them found the economy was a little soft, so they wanted to hang in there a while. So they've hung in for 2 or 3 more years, but now they're like, okay, spin this off. It's really time for me to enjoy my grandchildren, get out of the business, cash in on my investment, and move forward. Is that true here in Atlanta as well, Eric?
Yeah, I think we're seeing the same thing. We're seeing a very healthy market, and for the benefit of our listeners, is not all restaurants for sale are just distressed sales or people are losing money. There's a lot of people that have been in business many years, like John mentioned today, that are looking to retire. So they are a profitable business out there. So if you're a corporate, quote unquote, potential refugee here in the future, there is business out there that you can replace income with, as well as some asset sales. But I think we see a very healthy market, a balance of asset sales, profitable restaurants, a healthy market of buyers and sellers. It's not all one-sided like a lot of people say, I'm not going to put my restaurant on the market because it's a buyer's market. Everything is distressed sales. So would you guys agree with that, Ken and John?
I would say that this year compared to last year, I'm seeing much, much more of profitable restaurants being put up for sale than last year, where it was much more slanted towards the asset and distress sale. I'm seeing many more of the profitable restaurants going for sale right now.
And that's South Florida, so that's good to know. So when the Florida turns, that usually the whole country turns. How about you, John?
Yeah, I'm seeing the same thing. It was a tough couple of years there, from 09, 010, 011, and things have really started to turn. I'd say at the end of 2011, and everything's the economy's definitely picked up, and I see a lot more profitable restaurants, like Ken said, versus distressed asset sales back maybe in 2008 and 9, which really wasn't the fault of the restaurants. It was just the whole economy was not doing very well.
Because that's a common thing to remember, is that you can't just always wait for the economy to get better. Situations like a partnership split, whether it's a divorce situation or a regular just a number of partners in a deal that kind of goes south or whatever, they still have to divide the business and get out of it no matter what's happening. But one interesting statistic that we recently saw from Biz by Sales Third Quarter Insight Report is that pricing is actually creeping up, and that is also another indicator that the economy has improved and that it's more robust in terms of what you can actually get in terms of pricing for restaurants. Now, Eric, is that the case?
Yeah, I think we're seeing an increase in pricing, especially due to a couple of things. That there's an increase in buyers that are willing to pay. A good location, whether it was 2007, 2008, 2009, 2010, or 2000 and today's date, you're looking at paying more and more for these locations. People are wanting to be in these areas. Everybody in all of our markets will all have Main and Main, and everybody wants to be on the corner of Main and Main. That price for real estate has gone up, and as well as paying more for assets. So I do believe that pricing has gone up in our markets, and I'm sure that John and Ken in their markets are seeing an increase in pricing as well for top locations.
Ken, is that so in South Florida? Are you seeing pricing creep up as well?
Well, I am seeing prices go up a little bit. Just recently, we've done a couple of deals that were actually asset sales, that the prices were in the $200,000 and $300,000 range, just because somebody wanted those locations. And a couple of years ago, you weren't seeing those at all. Nobody was willing to spend, more than say $50,000 to $100,000 on an asset sale.
That's right, and that's a term. I was actually having a conversation this morning with someone about this. Sometimes people just say it's the key money. It's what you've got to get access to, the keys in that particular location. You're willing to overpay for it to get that particular spot that you believe is going to be perfect for you. Is that correct?
That's exactly right. We did a deal for a certain person wanted a sports bar in a certain area and spent over $300,000 for an asset sale and completely went in and regutted it. And we did one last month for a space, $200,000 for the same exact thing. Didn't even open up one day at the other place. Just took the keys, closed the business, and remodeled it.
Wow, that's an amazing story. John, is there anything similar happening for you in the western part of the country?
Well, in Colorado, I think the economy, even though the nationwide, the economy was bad there for a few years. Colorado wasn't great, but we didn't crash. We didn't have the big housing boom and bust like we saw in some other parts of the country. So the prices didn't go down. They didn't crash as much business-wise either. So you see a little bit of an increase, but nothing major. There's good values out there, and there was, even back in 2009, 2010, things were a little soft, but they weren't distressed by any means.
Good. We've talked about a little while ago. Ken mentioned saturation, too many bagel shops, too many pizza shops in his area. What do you guys see as is going to be saturated for this coming year, and what do you see probably as a hot trends of concepts coming into your areas? John, can you take that one first?
Yes, I'm seeing that a lot of people have either left the corporate world or their expenses and expense reports and things like that have been cut. So I don't see as much lunch traffic, but the breakfast business is doing well out here, especially up in the mountains, Breckenridge, Keystone, Vail. The ski resorts are some great opportunities up there. Breakfast sales, and the sports bars are doing fantastic out here. We have a lot going on with the football playoffs coming up and the Broncos being in it, and so sports bars have always been very popular and continue to be. And bars are packing them in now with the Broncos making a big push for the Super Bowl here.
So what about
breakfast places are doing well, especially up in the mountains.
Good. What about saturation? Are we done seeing tea shops and faux places in Denver, or is this going to be continuing, or what is it that is getting a little tired over there?
The faux restaurants were opening up everywhere a couple of years ago. I've seen a big slowdown in there, but they're all doing okay. So I don't think there's as many going in. So they all seem to be doing okay, though. I mean, that's been a popular food out here. So.
Good. All right, Ken, about you down in South Florida, what do you see over there?
Well, the hot trend in the last year really was the upscale hamburger restaurant franchise. And we've seen an influx of the Shake Shack, Smash Burgers. Shula has gotten into it, the Shula Burger, and they're opening up more and more of these. BurgerFi has completely sold out the entire Florida area on their franchises. So that's been an extremely hot area, and it's been hit or miss for some of them. Some of these franchises have come in and have not done very well, and I believe that's due to oversaturation. The hot trend also is the Peruvian, Colombian restaurants all over the place, different Latino restaurants opening up everywhere, and they're growing, and a lot of these that opened up in the last 3 or 4 years are now up to 3 to 10 units. So that's always very hot, and we have a growing Hispanic population, and that is, I believe, going to be the wave of the future through the Palm Beach County.
Interesting. Robin, tell us about Georgia. What do we see here?
Well, some of the hottest concepts in the Atlanta metro area are around the density of the office population. So office building cafeterias, in the last 6 months, I've had to do searches and actually go out and talk to sellers and convince them to sell because there were so many buyers lined up. So office building cafeterias, and again, I think that has to do with the density of the office population. And then the other thing that is really driving a lot of success in the Atlanta market are franchise resales. And the reason I believe that the franchise resales are so popular is because this marketplace is very, very competitive when it comes to landlords. So getting that landlord to take that second generation person and let them into a space when it has the strength of a strong franchise behind it has really created a great deal of traffic. In terms of saturation, oh my gosh, can we say yogurt? That just they're closing right and left. They'll continue to close. It's very, very difficult to get any dollars for the assets of a yogurt store. They're better off to probably take their equipment out. And that's like a lot of markets. Things come in, everybody rushes into a situation, and then they need to get out. And that's when they call on folks like us who are restaurant brokers.
Good information. Thank you. Guys, what about seasonality in restaurant sales? I mean, obviously everybody wants to buy your yogurt shop in the middle of the summer, and when it's 25 degrees and snowstorm blizzard in Breckenridge, nobody wants to even think about ice cream shops. So tell us about the seasonality and maybe some advice to people listening that want to maybe buy or sell a restaurant and the times in each of your markets. Ken?
Okay, well, obviously down here in South Florida, our busy season starts sometime around Thanksgiving and ends sometime around Easter. And when it's very busy, the people that are running these restaurants, the owners, they don't want to sell because they've gone through the slower time. They want to cash in on all of the money. But a lot of times the seller doesn't realize that you don't put your restaurant up for sale and sell it in one day. And the best time to list that restaurant would be starting in January. Have the buyers come in there when it's at its busiest. And if you get an offer sometime in February or March, it's still going to take 6 to 8 weeks to close that deal, and you'll be closing right around Easter time. And it's a good time for the buyer to buy because going into the slow period, they can take over the restaurant, they can learn the business, they can make their mistakes while it's slow, and they'll be geared up and ready to go for the busy time. So a lot of buyers are looking at buying the restaurants in the busy time, and that's a mistake. They should do it in the slower time, and the sellers, it works out for both people that way.
And John, you have an outdoor paradise over there that's 12 months out of the year. Tell us about your seasonality or advice you have.
Yeah, it's interesting. I see we don't see that much seasonality. It's really I thought maybe the summertime would be a lot busier, but I think for instance, I had buyers. I answered 3 calls on Christmas Eve about buyers interested in restaurants. So it's people are looking at all times. Really, it's not that much seasonality out here. It's a good solid business all throughout. The summer is obviously a little bit better, because in the winter we could get snowstorms and things like that. But in the summer, there's so many outdoor things going on in Colorado, festivals which bring tourists in.
Hey, John, hold that thought because we want to come back to it after a quick break here because I think there's really some good information in what you're saying. But we want to take a quick time out and thank one of our sponsors, Today's Restaurant, the food service industry newspaper. Today's Restaurant is the trade newspaper for the food service industry in Georgia and Florida. Their publication is available in both print and online. You're listening to Eric and Robin Gagnon. We are the Restaurant Brokers, and we sell restaurants.